What's up, everybody? It's DisThunder from the Foosh, and, well, hot damn, it's finally time. Today we're going to take a look at the Mezco Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League Deluxe Tin box set. Now, being closer to the West Coast, I got my set a little later than everybody else, it seems like, which, that's fine. Hey, logistics is logistics. But I heard a lot of kind of negative feedback right out the gate on it, and well, frankly, if I'm going to save you guys the next 11 minutes, I don't know that it's all that well deserved. I think they actually did a pretty good job on this. The question is, was it a good enough job to have justified the extra year plus wait on top of what we were expecting? And for that, well, that's what the next 10, 11 minutes are for. So for sake of archive, in this nice looking Justice League tin, you get 3 figures, of course, and they're hands and accessories. Those accessories include 3 heads for Batman, 3 for Superman, 2 for Flash, and then Batman also gets his grappling gun, which is the same as the previous releases, and the Parademon rifle, also same as the tactical release, and the Flash gets some Speed Force effects. It's not a bad mix of accessories, although, and I'm sure I will repeat this later on, I wish the Flash had an unmasked head, and, well, really that's about the only thing I feel like I'm lacking as far as accessories go. I was expecting Batman and Superman to be mostly reuse, but I think the bodies are new, or at least modified from their original 2016 versions, which is just fine by me. The Flash, of course, is going to be almost completely new. I don't know if there's anything shared with any other figure previously at all. So with that being the case, let's start with him. We can go through a little bit of a breakdown. As you've likely noticed, he's actually a hybrid design. He has some regular plastic joints for his elbows and knees, and then the suit covers his hips and shoulders and underneath his chest overlay piece. So there is a bicep cut where that transition happens. I don't believe there's any butterfly joint. If it's there, it's not very useful. But the padding for the suit is on an elastic, so it does get up out of the way, so that's a nice touch. He does have a barbell jointed neck. Due to the flexibility of that neck piece itself, I feel like this is a little bit limited. It's probably something we can modify, though, if we need to. Here you can see the barbell inside. It's just kind of a shallow joint, and I think it's the flexibility of the neck itself that's holding it up. Moving down to the torso, this piece is also a flexi rubber, as you would expect since the neck is, and that's where I think the trouble for most people is going to be. There is actually range of motion underneath this piece, but because it covers the entirety of his torso and this goofy little flap that covers his crotch, it gets in the way of letting that do its thing. The torso armor, I mean, not the other. I don't want to talk about Ezra Miller's thing, okay? The other issue, not quite as profound, is his hip armor, which starts to kind of catch and knock him back right there when you try to push the hips outward. And I think the issue is that because it has like a sharp angle to it, it doesn't conform to the hip. It needs to be flayed out to allow for a little bit more range of motion. All that being said, the elbows and knees have a really good range of motion, as do the ankle joints. So really, I think all the right components are there. It's just the way that torso piece was done that's kind of hitching it up. And to be honest with you, I think it's something we can fix. See, I wonder if you could make a cut right here beneath the chest plate, and then of course we can completely remove the codpiece and put it underneath, which I will show later. Moving on to Superman, this base body is very similar to his original one, but I feel like the torso proportions are a little bit improved over the first release. Also, the costume is very similar, but obviously it's a different color and a little bit different texture. The big change is going to be there is a new neck and, of course, the new head sculpts that have been attached to said neck. This also helps with the proportions, and, well, the other thing that's nice is the articulation feels a little more rigid than the original release, so I think this is an improvement all the way around. So everything is basically the same as the BVS Superman, except for you don't have that kind of loose shoulder joint. And I actually feel like the torso joint and the hip joints are slightly improved as well. I've never cared for these boots and their weird squared toes, but they do look accurate to everything I've seen, and they function just fine. The cape has a posing wire that runs through, starting at the collar here and then goes all the way out to each end. And while I'm not the biggest wire posing cape guy, I actually like this one quite a bit. This works very well. I've already taken the liberty of attaching that new head and neck to my other Superman figure, and everybody says he looks too tan, but I don't care. I think it looks so much better. I never did pick up the Manipple Studio. I think I said that right. I don't know if there is a right way to say it. I never picked up their version, but this feels like a definitive Henry Cavill head for me. And side by side, it's pretty subtle, but I don't know, you can kind of see that torso difference I was talking about. It's a little bit better filled out on the black suit. Next, let's take a look at the Justice League suit Batman figure. And this guy got some heat right out of the box, didn't he? He is a big change from what we were shown originally in the solicitations, though. I already added the same new head sculpt to my BVS original Batman, which I think makes for a fairer comparison. But really, there's really not a whole lot of carryover between the two figures outside of, say, the hands and maybe the belt, because even the boots have new sculpt to them. They don't have the same level of texture that the BVS suits do. The feet do, though, so those are probably reused. Personal preference thing. I actually prefer the kind of rougher leather look, but again, that looks accurate to the suit's appearance in Justice League. Likewise, he has the deflector pieces that he's added to his gauntlets, where obviously BVS would not. He also has opposing wire in his cape, and I'm about 50-50 on this one. I like it in motion, I like it in action. Drives me nuts standing free, and it really bugs me how it makes the collar piece lift up there. So later I'll show you how to remove that. As far as the articulation goes, it is just like Superman. It feels like an improvement on the original body, minus the butterfly joint, because here again, I'm not getting anything out of that side to side. Back to the suit a little bit. It is the same style and texture as the Supreme Knight suits. So if you're worried about durability, I can tell you, you're going to be fine. I've got 20 of those suits and not one of them's broken down on me yet. It does bunch in places when you move the articulation, but it seems like as long as you put it back in a neutral pose, you're fine. Also worth mentioning, the ankle joints on this Batman are a little tighter than I expected out of the box. I had to rehab them a bit, but once you get them moving, again, not a concern. Really, in terms of screen accuracy, the only thing I think you could do differently with this suit is to put a wash on it so that the panel lines closer match the outer texture of the suit. I think that's where it goes wrong, is that high contrast look, which is kind of a New 52 vibe on its own. So that's, up to your preference, really. Now, when I mentioned that about the shoulders, this is what I meant about the Batman Superman figures, is over time, that shoulder joint has loosened quite a bit. Everything else still works pretty good on it, but I'm grateful for that improvement because I feel like this is going to last me. This is going to have to last me for a while. This is probably the last Ben Affleck Batman I'm getting, isn't it? And as you no doubt figured out, these are the two mastheads together in comparison. Likewise for the Flash here, we get two head sculpts. You have one that has a stoic closed mouth look, and then one with a slightly open mouth, like he's speaking, or I don't know, breathing. Really, they're pretty damn subtle, which is why, again, it would have been nice to see an Ezra Miller, Barry Allen unmasked head in this set as well. But as it is, like every other Mezco head, they all swap out nice and easy, and the quality is excellent. It's probably the best likeness I've seen for a Flash figure thus far. And again, probably not going to see many more of those. Back to Superman here. This is the alternate head with a slightly open mouth, and here he is next to the original Cavill head, and man, there's no comparison. That thing is 7 years old, so I'll give it its credit where credit is due, but this is such an improvement. And here you can see the two side by side, just so you see the subtle difference in the expression. And then, of course, it comes with the Heat Vision head, which you saw earlier in the video. I wish this swap was more accessible for other people because, man, it breathed all new life into this BVS Superman figure. He looks 1,000 times better with the new head, neck, and wrist and hands. I certainly hope we're not done with this universe, even though I suspect we are. But, man, it would be cool to see these guys revisit some of the original BVS figures and maybe expand on them. Likewise, here is the original BVS Batman head next to the new Justice League head, and man, I never thought there was anything wrong with that head to begin with, but this is a dramatic improvement. Even if he is a little tan for Ben Affleck Batman, I still think it's a definite improvement. Here's where it gets a little bit different for me, though. This is the Nightmare Batman Ben Affleck head on the left, and then the new one on the right. And while obviously the complexion's a little more consistent, I actually think they were closer on the original. In terms of just raw likeness, they're both pretty solid, but I think, yeah, I think the Nightmare one is still a little better in accuracy. On the figure and in the company of the other figures in the set, though, I still think this is probably at least top 4, top 5 best Ben Affleck likenesses I've seen on a 6-inch figure, so it's got that going for it. Now, for the other accessories, I'm not going to go into great detail because, like I said, the majority of them are from previous releases. However, the Flash gets a whole new set of accessories with his Speed Force effects. You get 3 of these pieces, and you know how I do when it comes to action effect parts. I like these. They're flexible, they're easy to put on in whatever configuration you want, and actually they look damn cool when you put them into use. The other new accessory is an entirely new sculpted mother box with an LED effect. As you can see here, it's got a nicely hidden on-off switch on the bottom, which lights up everything except for the bottom panel. And I don't know, that's pretty damn great. It's got a really bright LED to it. It definitely, it works. I like it. Now, earlier I mentioned some quick mods that I want to do, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and share those with you right now. For the Flash, we're just going to heat him up so that we can get that torso pliable, and then we're going to take my little surgical scissors here, and we're just going to make that cut right along the V-shaped line at the bottom of the torso armor. Then we're going to use a marker just to kind of fill in where you'll have exposed red plastic, and I'm just going to glue that sumbitch right there onto the fabric. So now you have two separate pieces. This will literally take you 30 seconds. While you've got it warm, though, it's not a bad time to move out those hip joint pieces like I mentioned to kind of free it up just a little bit. I didn't want to flay them out too far, but just even that little, millimeter of difference kind of helps his stance out a little bit. I also tested out a different barbell for the neck joint and did a quick head swap, kind of an Injustice style Flash. It didn't make a huge difference, but I liked it so much that's what the second Flash is going to be used for from here on out. He's now Injustice Flash. Or I guess more specifically, he's Injustice 2 Flash, because once we got the Justice League skins for that game, that's pretty much exactly how I make my Flash look. This last one is not really much of a mod, but in case you've ever wondered how to do a cape swap on the style of figure, I'll show you. We're going to add a little bit of heat to the collar so we can pop it loose. Once the collar's off, we're going to pull the cape up so we can see where it is sewn to the suit. You can see just a little bit of black fabric there. We're going to very carefully hit it with a seam ripper, and that's what you end up with. Then put the new cape on, and then pop the collar back on. This particular cape came from Batgirl31 on eBay. I have bought a dozen of her capes over the years of different textures and styles. This one has a little bit of that pleathery feel like the original without being as crackly. So obviously, I'm a big fan of this look. And likewise, here we are with the Mezco 5 of the Justice League, and I think they look great together. Obviously, you can swap out the Superman for whichever one you prefer, but you get the idea. Next, we have the Justice League suit next to the tactical armor and the BVS once again, just to show all three together. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't pick a favorite out of these if you forced me to, but you're going to have a hard time forcing me because I'm a big guy and I'm good with knots. You get what I mean, though. They're all fantastic for different reasons. Now, lastly, this is the big one. This is my custom BVS Batman with the Muff Toys replacement head next to the Justice League Batman. And everything I said about the Mezco head, well, the Muff Toys kind of takes it to 11. I will counter with this, though. I think this is a more accurate head for the BVS costume than the Justice League costume. But there's no mistake in it. That Muff Toys head is incredible. I just think it's put best to use on the original BVS body and costume, for what it's worth. For a scale comparison for Flash, I figured Wonder Woman was probably the best candidate because she was, before this, the smallest member of the team, and now, correctly so, she is about a quarter-inch taller than the Flash figure, so I think scale is dead on. Here he is with my custom Keaton figure from the Flash 23 movie, and I know it's unlikely as hell, but I would love nothing more than to see Mezco right the wrongs of the 89 Batman with a 23 Batman. Give him a proper cloth suit with some plastic accent pieces. I think it could be an incredible figure. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen like many of my other pipe dreams for DC Cinematic stuff. For Superman, here he is with the Justice League Aquaman figure, which thankfully still really holds up because, not to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, probably not going to get the solo Aquaman movie costumes. And then lastly, here we have the Mattel Movie Masters Parademons with the 3, because, not to be a Debbie Downer, but this is probably the best Parademons we're going to get, likely as well. The articulation is not great, but they actually don't look bad scale-wise and style-wise with these guys. And if this set has any real downfalls, in my opinion, it's that. It's the Swan Song. It's the last song in the set of the Zack Snyder universe, or the DC Cinematic Universe in general. And that makes me sad. There's so many other things, so many other costumes and characters, stuff from Black Adam, stuff from Shazam that we're likely never going to see. So really, more than any other issue, that's the only thing that kind of tempers my excitement for this set, because I don't want to say goodbye to this universe. I really don't. But at least I get to go out on a high, because I think this 3-pack is kind of the best way to end this story. So I'm very grateful for it, and I am grateful to Mezco Toys for helping me get a set to review for you guys today. And unfortunately, you're going to have to fight if you want to get one now. Although the secondary market prices don't look too bad, I just know he's starting to sell out of the regular retailers and, of course, Mezco themselves. But I would say it is worth tracking down whether you want to get them individually or if you want to do the set, because it's a great looking set altogether. And I think rather than risk beating that poor dead horse some more, talk about what should have been or could have been or might have been, I think I'm going to end it here. Thanks to you guys for coming through to watch the video. Hope it was useful in making your terrible financial decisions, and I will see you again soon for the next one.